Welcome, welcome, welcome to Community Roundtable. They call me Ferdinand, the bringer of balance, leader of many disciplines, and one of your hosts of Community Roundtable. I'm here with the brother Ra, and we are on episode 11 of a 7 episode series of America, the Ancient Land. And this is the second episode. We're going to be going into the mounds and to the indigenous structures of the Mississippi Valley during this episode. But before we do, Ra brought up a key topic that I think we need to touch.
Yes, sir. I mean, once again, we are live. So, I wasn't sharing this, but I actually, yeah. I mean, I actually was trying to scroll to see if I could find some footage real quick, but let me see. I think I got some in my bookmarks for sure.
So one of the things that we was touching on right before we started the live is the aircraft that we've been noticing. There's a lot of people who've been noticing different type of aircraft, and some of the other reveals that have been coming to light for people around the world, and they've been communicating it through social media.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So, I didn't get a chance to ask you yet because I wanted to purposely not put you on the spot. Okay, let me close down trying to do multiple things. My computer seems to be slowing down, but I didn't want to put you on the spot, but I did want to get your authentic. So, guys, I did not ask him this beforehand. I mean, I talked to him about it, but I didn't get a chance to hear his perspective. I wanted to save it, for the live. So, there's a few things that I did want to cover real quick before we move on. And one of the biggest things that I know we're all talking about is the so-called UAP, UFO phenomena, which is really, once again, even if it is some sort of, experiment, it really is strange because in far as our recorded human history, never have we seen so many style unidentified, and our government is not laying claim to it. Not that their word means anything, but I would love for you to add some of your sauce or understanding, or just tell me overall, like, how you've been feeling, have you, and then once again, because I've been thinking of you because this thing could lead to mass hysteria, which would just speed in the timeline of you already predicting that there's going to be some sort of thing that causes a change or frantic to where, because I'm thinking about it once again, if these things are something that is real, let's say like something happens this week, the grocery store, everything we know is going to be kaput. So I would love to get your understanding on, is it the government? Is it unidentified? Is it interdimensional beings? Like, what is your overall perspective on what's going on in the nation right now, my brother?
This is one of those ones that I'll have to say I don't know. Because I'm going to be honest with you, I haven't did any research on. I've seen a few videos here or there on social media, but at this point I'm speculating like everyone else. It could be the government testing high level technology. It could be it could be our ancestors. It could be our family that is coming back. It could be a number of different explanations, but I haven't looked into it.
Okay. Now once again, but you said our ancestors, which is a kind of a great word to use. So you do believe that there are beings that are not, let's say, necessarily humanoid like how we are in this particular incarnation, but something other than us, that as we know us to be, some sort of evolution or advanced or ancestral. So you do believe there's other beings that do exist.
Well, one of the things that we were talking about prior to the live starting was interdimensional, right? And when we think about that, when we think about it from that perspective, there's an infinite amount of these different dimensions, right? And our ancestors or our family, our descendants, past, present, and future, simultaneously, they are existing on all planes, in all dimensions, right? And I would even go as far to say on all planets, in all stars, right?
Right.
And this could, I would say, what would make this hold true is looking at the various structures around which is what our episode is about. The various indigenous structures around the earth, different pyramids and mounds and various buildings. They are in line with star systems.
So let me ask you this, and we talked a little bit about it behind the scenes about first contact, but do you see, in the next year or 2 years, that there'll be more disclosure, meaning like, the world will publicly know that we aren't so-called quote unquote alone, and maybe that we'll even have a visual, whether it's Project Bluebeamish or whether it's the real thing. Do you kind of see that in the next maybe year, 24 months, that we actually might have something like that?
I would say that all things are possible, but me personally, when I think of a return like that, I'm feeling like it happens during the age of Aquarius at some point, or definitely the age of Capricorn.
Okay. And it's because we talked about the biblical and the Bible before, so it's and this is what I tell people, man, you can't talk about the Bible without talking about the aliens, quote unquote, the Nephilims, and the UFOs, the Ezekiel Wilk. I think that's something that Christians and non-Christians alike skim from, and the fact that there are lights and signs and some sort of vehicles that's supposed to be signs of the end, and that we're seemingly coinciding a lot, with certain ancient scripts, biblical textures about people from the heavens, so-called heavens, coming down or falling or visiting the earth. So once again, like we talked about before, I don't know whether it's happening independent of the people who are in power, or I don't know if it's like the people in power just reading out of the book. Oh yeah, let's do this one next, just to scare the people. But let me ask you this: what would you recommend overall? As someone who is into your mental health and everything else, and the different accreditation you have, what would you have overall? Because people are kind of like freaking out and bugging out a little bit. What would you advise you have overall on how to kind of hold frame or whatever it is during some of these strange times?
It's a great question. Number one piece of advice would be to dial down on the social media usage and turn the television off. If you don't turn it off, put it on sports or something like that, and keep it off of the news, and kind of get your mind off of the fear-driven machine, right? But then, in addition to that, add in meditation, right? Have some meditative exercises and then in addition to that, right? So this is multifaceted on what to do to provide peace for yourself, harmony for yourself, right? Some exercise, get some exercise in, get some time out in the sunlight. It's a little cold right now because it's winter time, but go ahead and get some sunlight in, even though it's cold. Make sure you're sleeping, right? Sleep is super important, and this will provide a certain amount of peace, even though we have all this going on. Because see, like right now, like I'm probably looking pretty chill.
Yeah, you is. I'm like, yo, it's aliens. You like, well, word.
Because at the end of the day, like I don't know what CNN is talking about. I don't know what Fox News is talking about. Al Jazeera News, NATO TV. I don't know what's going on BET or whatever new television network has been created. And I'm on only a few social media platforms. So I kind of have like that dialed down naturally for myself. Right. And that keeps the fear levels down. A lot of people fear levels is up real high because they're allowing in suggestions from individuals who don't have their best interests at heart. But you can dial down your fear, your guilt, your doubt, and your disbelief with addressing your regressed traumas, and then also with these various practices that I just mentioned.
All right, good stuff. So now I'm gonna move on to part 2 real fast. So we've had another strange week along with the so-called UAPs. We've had a major breakthrough in quantum computing. I wish that I can show, what we can see behind the scenes, but my computer might start freezing up. But yeah, just to basically, give it to you and just get your thoughts on it. So, there's a new quantum chip named Willow. It ran a calculation under 5 minutes that was supposed to take it 10 septillion years. And if we had to write that out, I can't even tell you how long that is. But what I do know, it exceeds any number in our known universe, including our universe. And they were able to calculate a calculation that took 5 minutes, but based off our current technology of today, it would have took 10 septillion years. Which led to very, very smart people at Google, including the CEO, the head of AI at DeepMind, to conclude that the only way that this could be possible is if that they were spreading out the computation across multiple parallel realities. And basically, the idea is and I hope you can still hear me. I know I'm freezing a little bit, but our supercomputers works on zeros and ones and binaries. It's either true or false. So this is how they solve problems. Basically, if you have a problem, it brute forces. It goes through every form of calculation one by one by one by one, and then it deduces what the answer is. So this is why it would take it a long time. But with quantum processing and quantum computing, it runs off of not bits but qubits, and the qubits are 0 and 1. Somehow they made them both. And it's funny because we're using quantum computing, but the people using it don't quite understand it, but they can use it. So they're able to have qubits exist as a 0 or a 1. It can be truth and it can be false. So they turned this machine on. They gave it a calculation, and basically, essentially, what it does, it's like if you have a key to a door and you have 50 keys. Typically, a regular person like us, we have to try each key one by one, and then you have to kind of keep track of what key that you actually did. But with the qubit, it's almost like taking all 50 keys and sticking them at the door at the same time to find out which key is actually the key. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on, what do you feel about this? How do you feel that they did a computation that they're saying should take this long and it didn't, and it lends credence into the notion that somehow we exist in it's not, I won't go say far we exist. That's a little overzealous, but the computational somehow is spreading its algorithms across many parallel worlds to get to an answer, and we've used it, but we don't necessarily know how we work. But they're given allegedly, they're saying this must how it works. I want to get your thoughts just on that, because that's just mind blowing.
I would say that technology has become so advanced that as we should be attempting to keep up with it, or actually keeping up with it, or being beyond it if possible, we also need to be putting a lot of energy into the earth, growing our own food, being able to produce our own things. Because when you talk about quantum capability like that, that's primarily going to be put into robots. It's already put into other types of technology, more than likely our cell phone, computers, laptops, tablets, and the list goes on. Probably vehicles as well. But once those robots, once we have millions of those in the streets, and that technology is in there.
It's almost like you can't even. And I get you even when you said you don't really know, because it's almost like it's certain things that happen that it is hard to quantify. You have some of the brightest minds in the world, and it's crazy how they can replicate math. So they can see the math, but they don't know what the math do. So they turn on the machines, they get the result, and now they're trying to reverse engineer. So and not even just to talk about when they're turning on these quantum machines, they're actually creating ripples within the face of the so we don't even know what the effect of them doing these things is. So like you said, man, and I'm kind of in the same position, and it's cool because the brightest minds are in the same position, is that it is unprecedented. It is, as you even see off screen, it's mysterious, and we're trying to figure it out. But it's scary that we can actually use machinery that can actually compute, and we don't even know how it works. And our only assumption is that it must. And here's the other thing, because they say that we live in a quantum field, and we're the result of quantum processes. So, and this is me kind of just filling in the blanks a little bit. So basically, it's seeming like that they're turning on this quantum computer. In order for the quantum computer to get the answer, it's world creating, is simulating worlds, multiple worlds with slightly different variations, because they have to find the problem to X. So they have a one world that goes, go ahead.
What you're describing, and what the picture that's being painted up here
Mm-hmm.
is an electronic version of deoxyribonucleic acid,
You got me with that one. I got to Google that.
DNA.
See, this is why I could. Yeah, this is why I had to ask you these questions. This is why, because you be adding the relish on top of it. You know what I mean? So
That's
essentially,
what it sounded like.
yeah. So essentially, and this is me now. Once again, I know we're live, so I'm hypothesizing, just like everyone else is. If they can say at this level, this is even on TechCrunch, that we're in a multiple reality, I can add my two cents into it. So what I feel like is happening is that when they're turning on these quantum machines, they're creating quantum worlds and they're simulating all these multiple worlds. And I think when they simulate worlds, they're actually simulating the entities that's inside of it. So when they tell us that our brains operate like a quantum computer, or it feels like we're in a quantum computer, what if in another parallel reality, someone wanted to answer, they turned on the quantum computer created our reality and everything in it. And not only did it create our reality, it created us with the need to create a quantum computer, because we have to run the quantum computer in our simulation so we can add to the processing power of the original so-called, this is where we're going to like Silicrum, a copy of a copy, but we're here running, they always say it's like a test, so we're here to extract data. So a quantum computer turned us on, it produced us, it to create another quantum computer to run a slightly different variation of the experiment to feed back to the other quantum computer and the other reality that wanted to answer to a specific question. You know what I mean? So this is when, and this is where when you really read through the lines and read in between, this is what they're alluding to, that this is what's happening, that somehow this quantum computer is observing other realities. But if it's observing, that means that it must be collapsing and creating it, just the fact that it observed, so they turned on this machine. They didn't know the machine was going to do this. The machine created or observed, either it created or it observed. But we know once you observe, it is a form of creation. It observed multiple parallel realities. It got the answer, and then it fed it back to them. And this is not like sci-fi. I feel like I'm talking about the new Doctor Strange movie coming out. We're talking about 2024 cutting edge breakthroughs in technology that also in a lot. I was on Reddit. The scientists are going crazy because the implications of the multiverse and the parallel realities, not now just being, because mind you, quantum computing is an offshoot of quantum mechanics. Quantum computing only works because of the theories that are in quantum mechanics. So we're basically proving a new science over the old theories that we've had. You know what I mean? Because we've actually been able to duplicate and replicate a new experiment that violates all of the laws that we kind of know, Einstein, E equals MC squared, et cetera, et cetera. And the fact that, once again, science has been telling us somehow these superpositions and quantum entanglement, and they're proving it. They're taking the science that they're coming up with, and what we get excited about, and they're creating machinery and then running experiments against it. So when you really start diving into it and say, like, you're someone in this and that is in this industry and you're working on these things, to go home that day after you ran the experiment, and the only other idea that all the brightest minds next to you said, we must be in a parallel reality. We must be universe, So that's a lot different from us just hypothesizing and trying to do the double slit experiment, all these other things. So now we took all those to actually, now we built the machine, and the machine is proving all of those experiments true. You know what I mean? So to me, this is definitely going to be exciting going, forward 5 years, 7 years, because if they're doing this now, that means that technology is probably going to hit a super accelerated rate, and we might see a lot of weird phenomena, because as I said before, we don't know what happens when they're messing with space-time, fabric time, and quantum field. We don't know the effects that is happening on this world, the other worlds, or whatever other multiverse we're into. So it's really exciting, man. I'm definitely glad to get your thoughts. That DNA tidbit was a huge linchpin within itself. And yeah, man, this wasn't here to have answers because there is no answers really. We're figuring this out on the fly. But I just wanted to get your 2 cents and to bring it to the audience, those of us who may have been following or not been following it, just to show you, some of the things that's going on current events before we dive into the ancient events. We had to dive into the current events.
Yeah, facts. So I pulled up I pulled up the chart of the moment right now,
Mm,
where the planets actually are in the zodiac, so that we could get an understanding of why things may be the way that they are, why situations are playing out how they're playing out. So we've got Uranus is the one of the main planets that we want to look at with this. So Uranus is in retrograde, and it's in Taurus right now at 24 degrees.
mm,
Okay, so Uranus is the planet of rebellion and revolution, but it's also the planet of inventions and technology, and can even be looked at as intelligence in a way,
mm,
right? So, Uranus being in Taurus, we're talking about Earth element, we're talking about spiritual femininity,
mm,
which we're talking about values.
mm,
Okay. Now, even though we're talking about those elements, we're also talking about Uranus being in retrograde. So that
mm,
retrograde, it kind of like changes up the energy a little bit. It's almost a little challenging for me to explain on how the retrograde works, but obviously it's moving backward,
mm.
in its own loop, and then bringing it back to regular direct. Well, it's headed into Gemini, right? So, in my opinion, we got a lot of Taurus energy, but we also have a lot of we have Gemini energy that's bleeding in, right?
Mm.
This communication realm, and
Mm.
Taurus,
So
and Taurus is also
first
about
contact, second contact, communication.
exactly, and Taurus is also about finance.
Mm,
So when you look at all of these elements, you can see how technology can have a major boost right now, especially with how fast the energy has already been moving, how fast technology has already been doubling. 15 years ago technology might have doubled every 3 to 5 years. Now
mm.
technology is more than likely doubling every 3 to 6 months.
I was about to say, boy, you hit the number right on the head. Absolutely. I was about to say that. Yep. All right, man. Once again, appreciate you. Damn, that was Rod's little intro segment. Now the regularly scheduled programming is continuing. But yeah, man, wild times, beautiful times, and it's crazy. As crazy as it seems, it's very exciting. Because to me, we're watching the end of one era of man and the dawn of a new era of man. You know what I mean? So, and it's funny because it seems like even what we're talking about with the ancient, as you showed me, and I'll let you talk about it if it feels righteous within the conversation as we continue. But as you showed me some of these things from the ancient civilization, and you're making me feel like I'm Marty McFly. I'm thinking this is the future, but maybe it's back to the future over here. So yeah, so as you know, sometimes things connect, you don't even know how they connect, but us studying these ancient lands and trying to understand what's going on is providing the blueprint on what's going to happen, it seems like. So
When we talk about America being the ancient land, and we've got to touch on quite a few different things,
mm,
right? So we got to touch on the history, we got to touch on what's hidden, we got to touch on the Nephilim, we got to touch on the maps, we got to touch on all these different things. One of the things we got to touch on is these mounds and these
mm,
indigenous sites up and down the Mississippi Valley and within other parts
mm.
of continental United States, right? So let's do that. Let's pull up one of those locations. So this location on the screen right here for everybody who's watching is Poverty Point, right? This is in Louisiana, in northeast Louisiana, right off of not far off of the Mississippi River. I
Mm.
believe the Macon Bayou, that is the waterway that's right next to it. However, this location became a uh, uh, became a United Nations World Heritage Site
Mm.
in 2014. Now think about that. This Poverty Point became a became a national heritage site
Mm.
in 2014. In 2020, and this year in June or July, I think it was July. No, matter of fact, it was June. In June, they have their 10-year anniversary,
Mm.
right? So why doesn't the rest of the continental America, know about this place and know about and know that there was a United Nations World Heritage, excuse me, not National Heritage Site, World Heritage Site that this place was deemed as,
Mm.
and and why didn't Americans know that there was a 10-year anniversary?
Mm.
These are all questions that I'd like people at home to ask yourselves and to ask your friends and your family, because this is important. This is a really big deal that the United Nations, I'm gonna say it again, would have this place as a World Heritage Site
Mm.
and
World heritage.
World Heritage Site, right? So let's keep going, right? We got Poverty Point, but let's go to the next one. So we go up the Mississippi. Well, we go north on the Mississippi just a little ways, and we get to East St. Louis. Okay, now listen, y'all. This is a massive, massive mound. Okay,
Mm.
this mound is not small. Right, it's
Mm.
huge. I honestly wish that I had one or two that shows some size relationship to people.
Mm. You can see the steps a little bit. Dang.
Here we go. Here goes one with the size relationship to people.
Dang. Mm.
Like this is what our ancient ancestors built, and it still stands to this day. These are ancient pyramids, akus.
Mm.
These are ancient temples.
Did you show if I think when you originally showed it, it showed like the inner structure of the inside. I think if you go back up top, I wonder was that um yeah, go all the way. Should try to refresh the screen again because it was up there. Oh, there it is. Yeah, that's wow. Wow.
Now they're saying in this one that this is a burial ground. I've got to look into that and verify if it was a burial ground, because I'm not sure.
Well, they try to tell us the pyramids are a burial ground too.
Yeah, which we know isn't true.
Right. And this is kind of leading off what I said last episode is that, and when I was also doing my research, is that most, if not all, of these mounds have ridiculous inside complex structure that doesn't just stay in the mound; they go underground.
Yes.
Underground. You know, that's ridiculous. So once again, even looking at it, it's ridiculous. But I think the biggest part when I do my research is how intricate the insides are. So even when you say that, and it might look a little primitive on the outside, but once you see how robust, and like that picture that you just showed, even that so-called being a burial ground, how the heck were they doing this all those years ago and creating intricate inner inner tunnel systems with so-called primitive tools? See, and that's insane, and that's just what they're showing us.
Exactly. These images, the world needs to see this, because there's no pyramids in the United States of America that I've ever heard of or seen that are built in stone.
Mm.
Every one of them in the United States of America are mounds. They are
Mm.
built directly out of the earth. And
Mm.
I don't know of any other place on the earth where you have
Mm.
mounds.
Which meaning that they're not taking material from one place to another place. They're somehow building this with the substance that they have right in front of them, it appears.
Now, if we go a little further north,
Mm.
We get the Serpent's Mound.
Come on, man. And this is all in North America.
This is in Ohio. And Cahokia Mounds is in East St. Louis.
Dang, where Bone Thugs is from? Ohio?
There you go. Real rap.
So just once again, this looks extremely purposeful. It looks, extremely just well crafted. In your deduction, were they just building these things just for aesthetically pleasing boredom? And we talked about a little bit on the last episode, or the fact that they're also just so happen to be on ley lines, and then some of these actually have connections to the star. What when you see this, what goes on in your head as someone who has been researching this? What do you think in your mind why they were not? And once again, that's a mound, but it's not a pyramid. So I just want to know your thoughts on what do you think they was doing and why.
Well, I think about this being the ancient land. I think about this being the true holy land. I think about this being the land of the gods. I think about the Europeans calling this place Septentrional. The northern land of the seven stars, right? So I'm thinking about all of this, and then I'm thinking about, well, what would my ancestors have had to have been to have gotten these names from these different individuals, for them to have been known as the ancient holy people? Well, they would have had to have been in deep meditation on a consistent basis and lived the true life of purity, lived directly in the environment like every other animal, and was able to get the benefits of that true integrity. Dr. Sebi often speaks about Dr. Sebi. Well, he's passed at this point, rest in peace. But Dr. Sebi used to speak often about Mama, right? This is what he called that woman in the forest, right? And he used to talk about how she was naked and in the forest. And he talks about how high of a level of integrity a person would have if they lived naked. Well, what is he explaining, right? Well, he's explaining what happens to a person when they are allowing the sun to fully hit their full body every day. And they're allowing themselves to have oxygen to all parts of their body. Like, I'm covered up with clothes right now. We got on clothes and stuff. Well, how much longer will we live? How much higher in vibration will we reach? If we were living the way the ancients lived, right? So our people here who created these mounds tens of thousands of years ago, they did that while living the way I just described, eating directly from the land. Well, you're going to have the highest vibration you could think of when you're living that way. And then that's going to put you in a position to be able to understand things where there's no teacher. And you're going to feel vibrations differently. Everything about your feeling capability is going to be different, right? So one of the things that we do know about the vast majority of indigenous structures that are built around the world, the vast majority of them are aligned with star systems. They are aligned with some of them are aligned with solstices. Some of them are aligned with the rising sun at certain angles and things of that nature. But most of them, it's star systems. So the Pleiades star systems is one of them. Sirius star system is another. I'm not sure about Polaris. I gotta check on that. But we definitely know Orion's belt is another. Certain alignments with Venus we know about, with Washington D.C. as well as with the Giza Plateau. So these are these structures that have been built, like Serpent's Mound and so many other mounds. What we could say is that there was communication happening with these.
I was just about to ask you, because just looking at that Serpent's Mound, right? And that's so more so than the other mounds that you showed, but it's so beautiful, and it feels like, even looking at the trees, This is not something that was made to be observed from the ground. You know what I mean? It doesn't look like it was made to be observed from the ground. It looks like its true observation was supposed to be made from the top down. And then when you talk to me about Palladians and Series A and star system, it's funny because we're talking about today in UAPs, which when we start talking about like the Dogon tribe and some of the other native tribes and how we talked about something before. I don't know if we want to say that to the next episode or what, but how the ancients were telling us that they were communicating. And then we're back, you telling me about the age of Aquarius. I think you said Gemini controls communication. So it does feel like that there was some sort of communication. Then you also was talking about how they eat from the soil and they don't have clothes on. So we know that the sun is giving us messages, and it made me think like, man, how many messages are we being blocked because we're walking around with clothes all day versus with our ancestors they wasn't. So they, we know that light also emits frequency. It also emits information. This is how plants grow. This is how everything grows, because the light is telling them certain things. So just pulling out of the sky, no pun intended, it really feels like that there was some sort of communication or information that was trying to be relayed to something that maybe had a different perspective and was viewing top down while they was viewing up. So instead of like smoke signals and sending pigeons, they were building technological communicative devices, which might even be in something as form as a mound. And they even have, it looks like frequencies, and it has the circular. So we know these are universal communicative languages that the universe is built off of. You always talk about the golden ratio in these things. So when I see that, that's what I see. But the question is this just the byproduct of living pure? Or was there some sort, and I guess you can't really separate the two because you're living pure, you're getting the frequency, you're getting the thought pattern. So you do have some sort of knowingness. But was it just, if you live a more organic way, you will naturally start to build these structures on these ley lines because it's almost like you're communicating as above, below. So, does that kind of ring to you when you talk about these different star systems, that maybe that there was some sort of communication going on, advanced communication going on, and these wasn't just structural, aesthetic pleasing things that they were building?
I do believe that there was communication going on between not only communication, also a power grid that was created, and we see that had went on all the way up until, I believe, the late 1800s or the early 1900s, and then they tore all those down around the world, right? And this is where the fall of Tartaria starts to come in. But
Man,
we're not
only 7 episodes, man. You just added.
we're not going to go into that tonight. But yeah, our ancestors had an intimate knowledge of the sciences, because keep in mind we're talking about alchemy here, right? So when we're talking about alchemy, our ancestors, more than, I don't even know if they even called it that, but they more than likely didn't see the sciences as all the different sciences we see them as, like chemistry, biology, sociology, psychology, right? Everything was alchemy, right? And this right here, like, don't quote me because I'm not pulling this one out of a book. This one right here is just off the dome, my opinion. But yeah, like our ancestors were very knowledgeable of the sciences, and the proof of that is these structures. The proof of that is it is when you go down to the Yucatan Peninsula. It is the astronomy windows, right? The observer windows that were built into the indigenous structures down there to be able to view the stars and to be able to take your measurements and do the things that you needed to do for your specific work. So yeah, we for a very, very long time, hundreds of thousands of years at a minimum, if not millions of years, we've had an intimate knowledge of mathematics, astronomy, scribing in most forms, metalwork, whatever we've been learning in a lot of these history books about when indigenous people of whatever lands have had abilities to work with metal or to farm or to do any of that. I think that goes back minimum 100,000 years, minimum hundreds of thousands of years, minimum.
So let me ask you this, man. I'm just I can't get over just the the fact that these things look the way that they look, that they're positioned the way that they're positioned, and it seems like that they're trying to communicate, or not even trying successfully, or so. And this is just not going out there, because we have things like the Dogon tribe that they tell us that they came from the Sirius star systems. So are you to that some sort of subscription that maybe we went from Earth to those star systems, or did we go from those star systems? Is Elon Musk already been lapped and we don't know it?
So when you ask me that question, it brings me to one of the master teachers of all time, Dr. Malachi Zodek York L.
Okay.
And when I think of Dr. York L, and he talks about the spook who sat by the door, right? And then he tries to help each of us understand in his teachings that we are the spook, right? So the ghost that they built this whole religion around, the Holy Ghost, he tries to teach the people in his teachings who that Holy Ghost is.
So, and I don't know a whole bunch about Dr. York, but I do know a little skosh.
Well, before you go in, all I'm saying is those entities that you're talking about, those etherical beings that are coming from these star systems, is us.
I was just saying, man, we be locked in, man. We be like, I was just about to go down that rabbit hole. There's been multiple reports, and I listened to a multitude of everything, like even the honorable Minister Farrakhan. And let me stop trying. I'm trying to double search, because you're sparking ideas about stuff, and my computer's freezing. Now, let me just exit the screen out if I can do it. And even the great Elijah Muhammad, Farrakhan, and they discuss UFOs. They discuss the Great Mothership. I don't even know, to a degree, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. York spoke on the Anunnakis and who they were and what they looked like. And then I can't remember who it was, chat, and also don't kill me, but I think he was some sort of military or ex-person white guy, and he spoke on the aliens that he saw walk out of the spacecraft, and he said that they were 7 foot tall black people. I don't know if you saw that clip, and I wish I had it for this chat. It does exist. If you guys go search it somewhere, and next thing, I'll make sure that I play it so you guys know that I didn't just pull it out of the AI ether. So it's and even once again, Farrakhan, they talk about this a lot in the Nation of Islam, and ironically, the Nation of Islam, even though they don't like to admit it, they are huge Scientologists. And I think that's a whole episode within itself. But the premise of Scientology, that this earth was seeded by so-called other so-called worldly beings, and then you have the Dogon, and you have the Aboriginal species that we're talking about now in the Native Americas. Once again, I don't know what came first. Was it the chicken or the egg? Did we grow out of the planet, grow out of the earth, and then we grew into the star systems, like we were talking about? One of the stone, and once again, I'm not going to bring it up. Whenever you want to bring it up, I'm going to let you bring it up. But when you showed me the stone carvings, and you talked about what you thought, that you asked me what I thought it was, and you told me what you thought it was. So, these are some of the questions that I think, as we continue to dive, my mind is just starting to wonder, did we leave Earth to stars, and then we somehow came back for people who were either left here, or maybe they didn't have the specific technology of the peoples? And it's been maybe a double agent style education system between humans and humans, one human being more technologically advanced, you know what I mean? Thus giving the appearance of God-like powers, but the more truth is that they may be more flesh and mortal than we understand. So just kind of unpack that for me, man. What kind of came first in your mind when you look at this stuff? Is it that you think that we might be developing technology to leave the planet, or is the outside develop technology to come to the planet to give us knowledge? Because we might be taking knowledge from Earth into the star system. It might not be from down up. It might be up down. It might be down up. It might be some information that's coming out of this Earth that is leaving into the star systems and coming back, versus something that's in the star systems and then simmering, then coming to Earth. So I just want you to get your thoughts on that kind of thesis right there.
It's challenging for me to give any direct statement on exactly what it is, because we're talking about the interdimensional thing, and I would go as far to say this: the shape of movement within frequency, even if it's a wave, has been a vortex. And that can help us to understand the movement of spirit being. So I don't know if that answers, but I think that's the best way that I can answer it.
So let me ask you this. Do you think that this whole game that we're doing, even our ancients, it was all just a level of spirituality? Because if we really start to unpack this, and I know some of this will be for other episodes, when we start talking, just to skip a little bit around, I think we talked a little about this the first episode, or maybe 2 episodes ago. Thoth, the Atlantean, coming from the so-called old world, Tahuti, whatever you want to call them, to the newer world. He wasn't there just saying, hey, let's build these mounds and these cool structures. He was spreading esoteric, so-called esoteric meta knowledge. He was building these things, pine cones and blue lotus flowers. It wasn't just about the beauty of it. It actually had a rhyme or reason to it. So do you kind of feel like, I know you feel like life is spiritual, but even what we're discovering, we're seeing spirituality of old made manifested by studying just like almost archaeology?
I think what we're doing at this point is uncovering hidden truths. And it's coming through anthropology, archaeological evidence is being uncovered, recarbon dating certain things, to include having more minds, more eyes looking at ancient religious texts, historical material, to be able to uncover certain things. You go back 60, 70 years, the library's open, but a lot of people aren't really hanging out there. So the bulk of people who are getting the high level knowledge, really cracking open these hard to read books, are the individuals who are going to college, and it's a requirement for their degree program. The bulk of other people, they're not really reading these other materials. But now you've got people who, because they got the YouTube page, they're cracking open these books, they're reading them, and they're using their YouTube to monetize and tell people about what they found in the books and stuff. So people are uncovering things. And I'm not sure if this answers the question. I think I might have missed it. I might have missed the question.
Yeah, me too. But let's no. It's cool. You add value. Even when you may have forgotten the question. But when you showed me this on the screen right here, the Wakanda. Now, mind you, in my mind, I am like an esoteric technologist. So when you first told me that the great city of Wakanda is not mythos or Disney mythos, it actually existed. What are we kind of looking at here with this picture? What is Wakanda? The Great Spirit, Salt Spring. Kinda tell me what was going on in your mind when you even brought this up.
People used to come from all over to get healing in Wakanda Springs. Well, it obviously isn't there anymore. There's a marker there now. But this is, according to System Moss, this was one of the locations that was a part of the Black Panther Nations. When we think about the Mississippi Valley, we're before we even say that, I was just reading a passage about Yeshua and how he was honored with a panther skin. I gotta find find that reference of where I saw that and show it to you. But like I said, Sister Myra Moss talks about the Black Panther nations and Wakanda being a big piece of that. She even talked about in this video. I can send you the video too. She even talked in the video about copyright infringement thing that Marvel was dealing with concerning Wakanda and the indigenous people. She didn't give too many details, but she talked enough, for like some speculation. But anyway, Wakanda is in Kansas. Just for anybody out there who's listening, who's tuning in, Wakanda is in Kansas. We're talking about a place in the United States of America. There's not a Wakanda. From my understanding, there's no Wakanda in Africa. There might be, because there's obviously a whole lot of cities there, a lot of countries, a lot of provinces, but I'm not familiar with Wakanda in Africa. But there's one in the United States of America, and it's very, very popular.
So do you think, and once again, some of the questions answer themselves, but do you think that they knew that maybe this was some sort of advanced thing? So even when they're re-showing it to us again, they're kind of not even making anything new. They're just, because Wakanda was this, ancient city civilization, that no one knew about. So do you feel that they're stealing kind of from this to create their stories of like maybe?
Well, it's very obvious that the Western world has stolen the vast majority of the ancient American and the ancient African and the ancient Asian stories. That's very clear at this point. We can go down the list of movies, we can go down the list of TV shows, comic books, regular books, the religious books, those as well. So it's not surprising at this point. This is what you need to do if you want to make a people great.
Right.
Haven't done anything great, unfortunately.
Right. So my thing is, and even when you say, you're doing this so people know, because to me, with knowledge, of course, comes power. But even when you start to research, this, and then your brain starts to wrap itself around not only did these people exist, but the technologies, the drawings, the cultures, the different things that's going on. To me, with acceptance to this, it kind of push you into a mental territory to where it erase consciousness. Because one, people always say, well, what does it matter? Well, it does matter to know that, that there were people here that looked just like you, that was building these things. Because when you accept it and know it, it kind of spreads the power of your mind, especially for Black Americans, because a lot of times we're just relegated to just slavery, and they try to teach us that if you were our hue during these period of times, everyone was enslaved, which was not true. So I could see how looking at this information, understanding this information, and knowing that these weren't mongoloid or other self people, it were people who look just like you, who were creating these type of things. It gives you a sense of strength, a spirit, possibility, understanding, and then kind of it's nothing new under the sun too. So
let's take it to the Bible, right? So when we talk about why is this important, because it says right in the Bible, the truth shall make you free. So if a group of people are living by lies, unfortunately, they're more than likely living within slavery and might not even know it. Right? Well, the truth makes you free. Now, knowing that Wakanda is in America might not be the only thing that's needed to make you free, but it might be the first strand of that thread that you notice that you need to pull on. It might be the first one. And that's what opens the door, but it was still the truth that ultimately set you free in a domino effect.
So by you just really understanding what's going on and researching these mounds, what type of what type of pattern recognition, or like what screams out to you, or something that you're just is evident to you when you're doing all this research and you're seeing all these things that's happening in North America? What kind of is like the 60,000 foot view that it paints for you in your mind, totality? So we're looking at the inside introspective, but on a whole.
You ever looked at a redacted CIA document.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like that. Just like when you have a piece of paper sitting on your table and a bunch of stuff is marked out, the stuff that's marked out is the stuff that stands out the most.
Mm.
So,
Mm.
like the NASA having rights to certain parts of the Grand Canyon and other parts of the world that you think, why in the hell would you want rights here? Like,
Mm.
what is here? Like, it looks like there's nothing here at all.
Mm.
Why do you want this location?
Mm.
Right? Well, it's stuff like that that stands out the most,
Right.
because this other stuff is right here in your face. This is right on the front of Google. What about what they won't allow to be on Google? Or if I search it, there's almost nothing that comes up. Well, that doesn't make any sense. That if I search something, almost nothing would come up. We're talking about Google here, where if I type in red, I have about 850,000 hits.
Right.
So
Right.
if I type in uh, high ancient technology in the Grand Canyon, I should have like 150 million hits.
Right.
If NASA has rights to that area of the Grand Canyon.
Right.
You know, so these are the types of things from the 60,000-foot view that I see. You know, and I pay heavy attention to symbolism, because at the end of the day, that's how we truly reveal the truth of these situations, in my opinion, because that's the language of spirituality.
Mm. Mm. Now let me ask you this, a little bit of an offshoot question. Have you, in your looking at this in the Americas, have you found any evidence or anything that leads to, and this possibly could be another episode, but giants or
So we're coming back to the Nephilim on matter of fact, I'm gonna tell you right now. Give me 1 second while I pull this up. But yeah, we're coming to the Nephilim on, so not next Monday, but
okay.
the Monday after.
Okay. All right, gotcha.
We hitting the Nephilim concerning the America, the ancient land. So yeah, right. That's definitely one I hope you're available for.
The Bears of Effigy Mounds. What is this?
All right, so Effigy Mounds is in Iowa. So it's right off of the it's on the west side of the Mississippi River, and it is, I mean, it's just over the bridge from Prairie du Chien. I think that's Wisconsin. But anyway, let me make this bigger for everybody.
And even when I look at this, man, it just looks like these are signs to someone who's watching from above. Why would you, they at the level where they're creating it, they wouldn't be able to even see what they're creating. Everything would just look like lines and squigglies to them if you're creating it on the earth. So it's like, somehow they were creating things that they knew that could be viewed from higher up. What do you think when you see that?
I think that there's a certain amount of communication going on. I think there's a certain amount of honoring that's going on, right? Because certain animals were considered sacred, and so we're talking about the bear, we're talking about the eagle, we're talking about specific animals. So I see a lot of that going on. So we're talking about symbolism, but we're talking about symbolism to a level where you are getting lots and lots of people involved, because just portions of these structures are larger than trees.
Right.
You gotta get a lot of help to do this.
Yeah, and a lot of just how when they create it, how do they even know what it looks like? Because from the ground, especially like you said, I'm looking at the trees and I'm looking at the size of it from the ground. Some of these things they might not even really can see fully what it looks like from being. So that it's kind of amazing that they were creating these things that when you zoom out, you can actually see more, and you can see even certain patterning of it. And even like look at the eagle. So it's just, yeah, man, that's just it like I said, when you talk about communication, man, it really does boggle the mind that how were they creating this? Was it somehow possible that they were able to see from above even back then? And so this has made it a little bit easier to get that POV. Um, excuse me. And then it had to be, in my mind, some form of communication, because especially, like I said, something that large that could be seen clearly from top down, which they were clearly sending signs and communicating with beings that may not have been on the earth, maybe above the earth.
Right. And this one right here is in Oklahoma,
That's
Spiral
insane.
Mountains.
That's insane. That looks as equivalent as the stuff in Egypt.
This is our people, man.
Yeah, you make me want to go on a road trip.
Yeah, man. It's about these riverbeds. What we always got to keep in mind with these riverbeds is they were the original interstates for traveling fast and traveling as close to safe as you possibly could. You was on the river. So we lived along the rivers. We had our temples along the rivers. We farmed along the rivers. If we hunted along the rivers. Like the riverbeds were pretty practically our homes, seafaring people, right? So when you think about that from that perspective, this is where the indigenous structures are going to be. This is where the mounds are going to be. The ancient cities are going to be. And obviously, we also know that every major city in America, and arguably the whole world, was originally an indigenous location where they just built right on top of it. Right? New York City, uh, St. Louis. I can name so many cities. The list goes on, right? But this is what we're dealing with here, right? We're dealing with looking at this from a completely different perspective, in my opinion. We need to see this, and I'm talking about people. Period. We need to see this from a different perspective because there's so many things that, in my opinion, prove that this is the ancient world. Like, I'm not looking at the Western time dating
Right. Yeah.
of these structures. Right. I'm gonna have to learn that science and go date these structures myself because I have a hard time believing that any structure that is an aku, a pyramid, a mound that is built out of the earth, was built after
the pyramids.
Your pyramids that all over the earth were built in stone. Like, I have a hard time believing.
So this, it feels like these are maybe not even prototypical, but just the northern indigenous people ways of doing the same thing in a time that was even before, the pyramids before. And whatever, another thing that's very interesting, you showing that map, is the fact that it's just so perfect on how this is not random, because even the rivers, all these things are on special places. You know what I mean? It's almost like the perfect setup, the perfect scenario. And the fact that they were living amongst the river, and the river just so happened to be on different key energetic ley lines at the same exact time. You know what I mean? So that's when it starts feeling like somehow purposeful. You know what I mean? Purposeful intent, even possibly down to content creation. I know that's taking it super high, but what are the odds that these rivers, these things, all exist within specific ley lines, just so happen to have the connections and like how it's branching out in trees. It could be that, and it could not be on energetic lines. It could just be like, these is river, but all these things that coincide purposefully and intensely, it really gets my mind questioning on the coincidences and the synchronicities that allow that to be true.
Well, I would say that when a group of people are living the ancient ways, a little amount of clothes or no clothes on, no shoes, they're always touching the earth. They're connected. They're cosmically connected. They're gonna feel certain things. They're not even really gonna have to communicate. They're just gonna know what's happening. They're just gonna know this is the place to stay, or whatever the situation is. Maybe hunting was more abundant. Maybe there was more medicinal plants. These are different things that I need to dive into.
Right.
But it's a
I mean, you give me the idea, even like, you watch some of these movies, older movies, natives, when natives were tracking people and they will put their ears to the ground or touch the ground or touch the tree. So it feels like that what you're talking about, that it allowed them to communicate in the earth, the mother earth, to communicate with them right back. Even when we talk about how did they know which herb did what, when you hear certain ancients and shamans, they said the plants told them. These are the stories. They didn't have to do certain trials and errors and eat a poisonous one and died and figure out no. They says is the earth, the plants. They were talking to them and they were letting them know what to eat, what not to eat, what to mix, what to combine. So, man, you're really hitting on some things right there as far as information being lost, the connection to shoes, clothing, et cetera, et cetera. Because we know there's science. I don't know how to say the word right now. Scientifical, if that's the word, proof that grounding, touching trees, hugging trees, that these things actually have physiological, measurable effects on the body. So even if you're doing it for a couple minutes at a time, so just imagine if it's day in and day out, and you're digging your feet into the ground, and you're laying on the ground, and that means the whole earth is electromagnetically communicating with you. And like you said, you will have certain gut instincts or certain intuitiveness that you may or may not know where it's coming from, because you're directly being connected in an expression of the planet. It's making me want to just streak right now, run outside with no clothes on so I can get some new download.
Yeah, man. And then think about how the ancients were eating.
Mm.
It wasn't eating hybrid food. It was food that was organic to the land, that was indigenous to the land. And they were consuming it only. Most of them weren't even cooking this food, because a lot of the food you could pick it right off the tree and eat it. Right. So you're talking about having an apple, and having and then like the grapes. In one of my homeboys' books that he wrote, the grapes were so big that a grown man could only hold as many as 4 in his hand. Before the land was poisoned, and when the natural circle of life was consistently happening on the land, with the animals roaming and dropping carcasses, each other and stuff. Well, and pooping wherever they poop at. Well, and then the leaves falling from the trees, and the leaves populating the next layer of the soil. Well, that natural organic process gave us the Garden of Eden. Gave us the land of milk and honey.
Nah, man. Like I said, man, you're definitely, like I said, someone might think it's because we've been taught all backwards. So when I keep asking you about certain information and you keep bringing it back to them eating right, them being pure, them breathing the air, them being connected to the earth, and this is making more and more sense that this is a secret tool. This is a secret key, because in most of us, what do we feel? We call it depression, we call it anxiety, but these are just other words for disconnected. Maybe because the nurture of the earth, we're disconnected, and it's not feeding us this resonance. What's it called? The 432 hertz that comes from it. They changed our music, the hertz in the music. So no, man, what you're saying is even ringing down on me. The importance of, especially for a knowledge seeker, and not to say that I do my best, but even double take it down, especially the more getting more in nature, getting the sun to hit my body, spending more time, not just grounding my feet, but grounding my whole body, because there is information, and we know food is information. There is intercellular metaphysical information that is being passed from the planet through its food, through its animals, through everything directly to us. And when we are taking in other hybrid fruits and chemicals and wearing certain even clothing, I know even certain polyester and stuff like these things causes EMF and different resonance within the body, how that can lead to a loss of information. Because you're absolutely right, the planet is communicating, everything is communicating with us, but the way that we are set up, we almost like we can't listen, so we're forced to use the senses of the mind to come up with information. Versus, like my uncle always says, nephew, but before there was book, how did we learn? You know what I mean? And I was like, well, how did we learn? He would say, we studied nature. You know what I mean? Man studied nature. That's how it taught him everything that he needed to know, you know. And maybe right. And maybe the creation of the European, and once again, it's a love fate Stockholm, but with books and paperwork and things that required us to so-called not go off our intuitiveness, not go off the naturalness of nature for information. We neglected that in favor of the information highway, and we're dumber than ever, it appears. So I think that you're really, 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 it is really dope because once again, I listen to a lot of information, but the way you're like structuring and you keep bringing me back is like really helping me understand the importance, if you're on the path of knowledge, with resetting and getting reconnected, because that might be the boost, not might be, but the boost to take you to where you're going, because you're in a more natural harmonic state with the planet, and then the planet can give you her secrets that she has the secrets, but it's hidden.
Multiverse will give up the secrets, and the secrets being revealed are based upon deep core desire. So if a person has that deep core desire for those secrets to be revealed, then they will be. Or if their deep core desire is for money, that will be revealed. Or if their deep core desire is for, sex with the opposite sex or same sex, then that will be revealed. It's always based upon deep core desire. But purity, getting to purity, unlocks all the doors. It unlocks everything.
No, man, you said that in maybe 2 episodes ago, and I got it quoted. I think I sent you the quote. Because it's once again, sometimes we know what to do, but if you don't know why you're doing it, like I know that, especially now I've been plant based for like 13 years, and but sometimes you just get caught into doing this, and you might not even know why am I doing this, and it'd be times where I neglect my health, I neglect my sleep, I neglect my grounding, because I think I'm in search of information. You know what I mean? Like I gotta Google, I gotta watch this. I gotta, not knowing that if I would maybe even cut off these things and get more in tune, make the body pure, as you always talk about, my brother, the Akashic will be my information highway. The direct connection to the information that I'm seeking through the senses will come intuitively, because you built a bed place for the higher thoughts. Because we know that the body's just a stream that allows thoughts to come in and out, and according to the purity of the body, it constricts or opens up. So man, you're definitely hitting on a fact, and you even see it on Facebook. I've been talking about it a lot more, detox, parasite, and it's not even to post to y'all. I post a lot of things for myself, just to get it out into the universe, to get it out and type through my fingers, because lately detoxing, parasite cleansing, and purity has been on like the top agenda. And I think that's the universe, source, whatever you want to call this, way of saying some of these extra knowledges aren't going to come from you with the forever perpetual pursuance of the external conversations and words. It's going to be an internal one. And once you get your body, you always talk about that purity, that pure state, which is, I think sometimes people make pure out of reach. When you say pure, I just think natural, and I don't think natural is easy. I think natural is easy. When we say get more to a pure state, just get more to a natural state. You know what I mean? And when you get to more of this natural state, you're opening up the doorways, like you said, for the truths, for you not to know it, for you to kind of be it.
That natural state, it actually is easy. The only reason why it's hard for so many people today is because of how toxic their lifestyle is, and they didn't even know it was toxic. They have that is revealed to them in layers. Pending how they choose to live. As far as whatever their change is going to be forward. And that's a hard thing, because people gotta look at themselves. To look at yourself, I mean, it's easy to see other people screw ups, their poor decisions based upon emotions gone bad, but it's hard to see ourselves, to truly look within and to truly look at our results and say, damn, I didn't really realize this result that just keeps happening is because of me. I'm doing this. And I might not be doing that direct thing over there, but I might have did something over here that caused a ripple effect that eventually caused this. and it keeps happening over and over again.
Right.
That has its way of manifesting as a result of how we eat, how we sleep, water intake, sunlight intake, exercise, goals.
Right.
6 keys of life.
Oh, did you say you got a book on that one time? You said you wrote a book?
The more guide to whole health.
Yeah, man. Definitely, y'all. Definitely go and grab that. But as far as today's episode, is there anything else that we didn't talk about specifically within the mounds that you wanted to make sure that the people know before we might ramble on about something else real quick?
The state of Ohio has more mounds and indigenous sites than a lot of countries throughout the whole world. Okay? I want America and anyone else who's watching this to truly understand what I'm really saying to you. Okay, the state of Ohio. We're not talking about any of the rest of the 47 continental states. Just talking about Ohio. But the rest of the 47 continental states have a massive amount of indigenous structures. They're not just mounds. There are other types of structures as well. Some shaped like animals, and others in other shapes, like pentagons, things of that nature.
Right.
We need to understand what this really means. And we need to also understand that in high-level leadership, there's very few CEOs or kings or queens or presidents or popes that's going to send out expeditions where they lose 80% of their cargo on a consistent basis. Right? They're probably going to cut that short, and they're going to work with what they got where they are. So this transcontinental slave trade story, we've got to come to a reality point that more than likely did happen. However, did it happen the way they said? More than likely not. So what does that mean? That means that the slaves of the United States of America that were quote unquote free, but really transferred in authority from the state level to the federal level, are the people of today with kinky hair that may identify as African American, Black, Negro, colored, Moorish, Hebrew Israelite, Muslim, whatever name that you can come up with, niggas, right? At the end of the day, are the original creators of civilization. They're still here today, right here on this land, and many of them believe there's something other than what they are. And that's the only reason why they're having trouble standing.
And still the number one influencers in the world, even with complete amnesia, still can't hide the glow. Dang, I had another.
Your descent nature.
I had another question, man. It slipped my mind that fast.
You can never go far from your descent nature. Really think about that. So the people of the Bible are the most influential people, arguably, of all time. Got all these different references in the Bible of the land of Misraim, the Mississippi River, the 7 streams that come out of the Egyptian Sea, or excuse me, that flow into the Egyptian Sea. Well, what are we talking about here?
Right.
Who are these guys that are on this on this live right now? Who are they? Who are their descendants? Where did they come from? Well, I can tell y'all right now, my mama come from Philadelphia, Mississippi. My dad come from from Lancaster County, Virginia. Okay? We're staples of this land. We've been here forever.
Facts.
We've been here since there was land.
No, that's a fact, man. And me doing my genealogy, and then just seeing for myself right there that I have Aboriginal, so-called native. My people were never enslaved. They've always owned their own lands and were free people. They were all 2 or 3 generations classified as mulatto. I have it with my own, and we already know with the Racial Integrity Act, they classified all natives as mulattoes and colored. So once again, it's the we've been psyoped and Stockholm syndrome and just white is right so much that when you tell, and once again, we've all heard at one particular time or another, if you are not someone who came over in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s and black, someone in your family told you, most likely an elder, you had natives or Indian in your family and you laughed at them. That's how much of it.
Stockholm syndrome part is really hitting home. Because remember, one of the parts of our conversation has been about wearing clothes and restricting the oxygen and restricting certain, abilities of the body, right? Well, that would be part of that Stockholm syndrome.
Yep, because they saw us without the garments and very few of it, and they called us savages, and now we subscribe to the drip, and now we are the drippiest. Now we are the most clothed, and that's a form of Stockholm syndrome. You know what I mean? So just to pivot real quick, which it really isn't a pivot, it's kind of a revision, or I've seen that you've been reading up on the Great Law of Peace. Yeah, so
yeah, a
little bit. So based off the initial conversation, I think 2 episodes, when we talked about it and brought it up and introduced the Iroquois Confederacy, the Great Law of Peace. Now that you kind of just took a few more, looks at it, kind of how do you feel about it? Like, what's going on in your mind, that the fact that your people was already here with this robust system.
I didn't get all the way through it, but the parts that I did read about, I appreciated how they had third parties who like to make sure there was always a mediator that was of the same level, but outside of the tribe. It looked like they had like 3 groups to that.
Yeah, so this goes just to tell you once again, this ancient land in the sophistication, because like no offense, but even in the so-called motherland, as they say, Africa, we know that there was a lot of warring of tribes. There was this is how they were able to be colonized. Either way, these dudes was going to do what they wanted to do. But so to see that there was this understanding and agreement here on this continent, so much that when the so-called same people who went to Africa, when they came here, they said, wait, we need to study this system. We need to study this robust property laws, court, judicial, from top to bottom. And not only do we need to study it, because we don't have nothing like this. We come from what did they have? A monarch? What did they have in Britain? You know what I mean? They whatever they had, it wasn't what we had here. And the fact that even their most loved constitution that they say they love, but they don't love it, just like once again, I'll be forgetting we live sometimes, but just like your boy said this, your Arab musician boy said it, that they're not the original people. Just how like the Arabs are now operating and controlling the pyramids, but those aren't their people, so they don't respect it the same way. It wouldn't, it doesn't make me surprised that the Europeans are using our constitutional framework and they don't respect it. They trample and because they didn't come up with it, so they don't have the same.
Well, this is the reason why I was saying that a person never falls far from their descent nature. So what are we talking about with these Europeans that are in control of everything right now? We're talking about a warring tribe of people. You've been reading about them in the 13th tribe. I forgot the name of the author, but we're talking about the Khazarians. Okay, so when we're talking about a group of people who their warring ability was so great that Genghis Khan and his family had trouble with them. They didn't want no problems with them. They was so much of a problem that the Roman Empire said, you know what, instead of us fighting with you, how about we go ahead and make a deal with you and you get to inhabit the Holy Land and y'all get to become the holy people.
Dang.
And y'all get to go around the world and y'all get to fuck people up because y'all are really good at it.
Right. No, that's a fact. That even when you're saying like the holy people and stuff, and even just diving down that rabbit hole and trying to just understand what is happening, and we won't say the name because we know that we're streaming. And it's funny not to like jump
The
off.
Zionists.
Yes, but like how the Anglos are trying to come to us and trying to say, well, all of our problems because of the small hats, right? And uh, I look at it, I say, well, no, I have a lot of, the doctrine of discovery and stuff that wasn't small hats. That was Anglo-Saxons. So yes, uh, there is some war between the Anglos and the Khazarians. There is. But both of y'all have y'all foots in our asses. So you know what I mean? We're not going to separate the supremacy. We're gonna group together. Yes, we are aware that there are Anglos and there are whatever the heck they think they are. What I mean, the ones who call themselves Jays but are not, like the biblical said. But the truth is, we cannot let the Anglos off the hook for their 13 colony doctrine of discovery, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that they've used. And we also can't allow the other Khazarians off the hook because they bankrolled the entirety of everything. You know what I mean? So and it's crazy how even us talking about this is all connected. Because even the smothering of, and this is something AI made the connection to, where it talked about what we're talking about now, and that the smothering of the ancient land is in direct correlation to the doctrine of discovery, because they had to make us feel like these lands were nothing. It was nothing but savages here. They don't have on clothes. So anything that they knew that they were going to find, because we talked about this before, and it's something that you do research on, that the reason how they even knew about these lands because the Moors, when they kicked the Moors out, the Spaniards, they took all the Moors maps. You know what I mean? So this is when you start to make the connection to what you were talking about, the seven gods and things. And I think I asked you about it before. I start doing research and I start coming to conclusions like, oh, this is how they was wondering about this new world, and coming up with these fables about this new world, because the Moors have already, and they had the maps. This was the first time that the Anglos and the Khazarians was getting these maps, and to them it was the new world. So we can't let it's an ancient world, because the doctrine of discovery said it's a new world, and it's a discoverable world at the same time. So you start to see the correlation between the psyops, of both the Anglos and both the Khazarians, to both agree to suppress the melanated indigenous people of the continent.
So this is when the Europeans start to take it serious. I would say that the Europeans started to know this information from the Egyptians with I believe Plato, because he wrote about I don't know if he ever got a chance to see any remnants of it, but he wrote about Atlantis.
Yeah, and it's funny because we figure out where were they getting, but these, now we know in the Anglos, in their books, this was new. But in every other people before that, these weren't new. We talked about in the last episode when we showed Luzia out of Brazil, and they're already saying 14, 15,000 years ago, 2,000, 3,000 years before the Bering Strait crossing, there were water-faring people, you know what I mean, already here. So this leads to the credence that when the Anglos and the Khazarians got this map that they were so infatuated by, these were not new lands. These were what we're talking about. These were ancient lands, fully mapped out lands. They had the stories of the road to El Dorado and all these stories, the cities paid for gold. This was coming out of the East based off maps left from the predecessors who were already there and traveling.
You know what? While we talking, I'm about to go ahead and pull up some maps for everybody.
Yes.
Because I got some that I pulled off of. Actually, I'm supposed to save it till next episode, but I'm gonna just throw
Give
one
a
up
little
there.
preview. Give a little preview, and then just while you're doing that, just to add some more relish to the conversation. That they were discovering these maps. They wasn't creating the maps. Remember, the Europeans with their Viking, they always talk about the Vikings, and they thought the world was what? They thought the world was something that it wasn't. So they was creating their maps, and they was even afraid to go to certain places because what? They were afraid that they were going to fall off the face. And they try to teach us that, like that our people thought that, which we did not thought that. We knew that wasn't no falling off the, and come on, look, while you're literally That's the map. That's yeah. While you're literally So, um, wow. Yeah. Yeah. And they were finding these things. This is something that I'm starting to learn is that um the European Khazarians, that group, the non-melanated group, there is no point of origination in almost any thought or idea or anything. Everything that, and then once again, this is something we can say for the next episode. I don't have the documents, but it's evident that the Europeans started to appear on the planet about 6,000 to 7,000 years ago through a genetic mutation out of Africa. This is according to their science. You know what I mean? So, which meaning that when they started to sprout out through, which is naturally, as we can see, a form of albinoism. That means that when they started to sprout and their numbers started to populate on the planet, they was on a planet that's why everything for them is always 2,000, 10,000 years ago. That's their history. That's their stories. That's when they can start finding their earliest ancestors. But as we see, even with the last thing we showed, Louisiana out of Brazil, 12,000, 13, 15, 20,000 years ago, there were people on this planet that was creating drawings, maps, everything else under the sun. So this just kind of
maybe the land of Canaan.
Mm.
And peep where the east is.
Where is it? Oh, in the middle.
Well, think about when, if you're reading passages in the Bible about the east, peep where the east is, and this map ain't upside down. Look at the name. Look at all the names. This map ain't upside down. Look at that, Tartari. Tan and Tartari.
And then once again, we can find multiple iterations of these maps evolving and not evolving much. So that means that how were these people coming to certain conclusions? Look at that. Wow. How are they coming to certain conclusions about the entire world? Obviously, these people were sailing way before we understand what the Europeans' sail systems or boat system, whatever they had. And they don't want you to know that. This is why they don't want you to know that there was a whole world of knowledge, of information. They don't even want you to know that there seemed to be 2 or 3 cataclysmic events that completely wiped out the knowledge and the information that our ancestors had, which made it a little bit easier for them to have this projection and this lie that everything new is not hasn't always been. Ace said, "What map is that?" In the comments.
Oh yeah, let me toss that up here real quick. All right, so this is let me go to the right up. This is a world map from 1566 from it looks like Nicholas de Deslien. Yeah, but this right here, I got this map out of the Library of Congress website, out of their official archive. Okay, I want people to understand. Like, look at Africa. This map is not upside down for anybody who's out there looking and watching this.
Wow, everything is wow. Now I see. Okay, so that's the Saudi Arabia. That's Saudi Arabia. That's okay, and it's flip. It's
there you go.
Opposite when we look at
it. Go the Nile right there. Let's see the Mississippi. All right, so they don't have the Mississippi populated well over here. I guess it would be like starting right here or something. I don't know. But yeah, they got the Nile in there.
It look like that's like the Gulf too.
Gulf. Yeah, they got the Gulf.
Yeah,
good.
That look like the Gulf. Yeah, and then look, the islands
Cuba.
Oh, this is crazy. Yo.
Like, look at this, Bermuda. Bermuda. Hispaniola.
Dominican Republic. Hey, wow.
Yeah.
And we don't really know which is left or right. We just going off what they look. The Amazon. Wow. Okay, so that's Brazil. That's South. Wow. And then look with the boat. That's South. If that's the Amazon, that's Brazil. You see it. Brazil. Bresil. Terra.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brazil. So how
Look
is
at
the
this, Terra do Peru.
mm,
Peru.
that's okay. Yeah, I got my mind got to just wrap itself around this. And then once again, as you said, we can see multiple maps like this, and we can see the evolution of the maps. You know what I mean? Because once again, human beings have the ability to reiterate new ideas without introducing any new ones, just by looking at the ones they've already created. You know what I
Peep
mean?
the name. Peep the name at the top.
Mm,
Septentriano.
mm. And then
The
look, but
north,
but
the
but look at the
northern
people.
land.
Look at the people. Look at the people on the map. That's
Everything I just said a
and it looked
little
like
while ago.
it looked like it's a pyramid right underneath them too, a little pyramid.
Yeah,
That rock structure.
yeah.
Yeah, man. Oh man, what is? I wonder. Oh, yeah, wow. I gotta read some Latin or whatever the hell this is. Ocean. Beautiful part about English, if I should say, we can recognize some of it because it's an amalgamation of so many different languages. Yeah, go zoom in on some of that other side for me, brother. Look. Whoa. Okay. Now that looks a little Homo erectus. E.
Yeah. Let me see what else. Yeah, that's all I got in here for right now. But I got some powerful maps in here. Like if you ever want to really go into the zodiac, we'll use this one right here.
Hmm.
It's in French, but
Oui, oui.
like yeah, you know, like real rap, like you know, Gemini, here goes Gemini, here goes Taurus, here goes the Ram or Aries, uh, Pisces,
And this is
this
a map.
Aquarius.
This is a world map.
This is a world map of
Somehow.
the
So
northern and southern
that's
hemisphere of the
that's
Earth.
see. So
But
that goes.
what you see on the outer edge is the zodiac wheel.
So that goes to show you somehow they was looking up at the star system and they was mapping the planet based off the
Absolutely.
stars, which is insane. You know what I mean?
So the individual who created this celestial map is the royal professor
Separate
of
treatment.
the academies of sciences. Let me see what his name is.
Can
Looks
can
like
can we get some etymology real quick? Some Google of septentrional. Google
Septentriano. Yeah,
septentrion.
yeah, I got you. Yeah, yeah, I got you. All right, so let's see. So I don't really use it like to get. I don't usually use Google for this. I usually use the dictionary.
Right.
Um,
Just for
because
the
it's a little older. Yeah.
my man be like this.
Right.
The north of the north or northern. The word comes from the Latin noun septrianos, which refers to the seven stars of the Big Dipper. Also known as the Big Dipper promised North America sky led to the Septriano. See, so that yeah, man,
I'm
that
telling you, the land of the gods.
right,
This is what the Europeans thought of this location, the land of milk and honey, the land of paradise,
mm,
because you got places over here like Wakanda. Well, Wakanda Springs was just one of those locations that was over here. We had all kinds of different locations. We had all kinds of cool stuff to come
right,
over here and see and do. But you know, once you get people coming over here who don't understand your ways.
right,
They come over and they use things and then they tear it up, and that's kind of what happened with Wakanda Springs.
right,
That's why there's a historical marker there, and there's so many other locations that only have a historical marker there. We was
right.
also talking last week about the freeing of the Israelites. That marker. That's I'm
And
not sure in Detroit, but let's see if we can pull that up.
I was about to say I saw that marker, and then I saw certain places in the United States have Hebrew inscriptions and all these things that's talking about Yahweh, and even certain native tribes worship the so-called Yahweh. There we go. Yep. Yep.
Real estate in Farmville and joined with white citizens to found the town's first
The
Baptist church.
Israelites. These Israelites. Come on now.
There's so many references that
1836. The Hebrew Israelites that we know wasn't even nowhere to be. So why would now? And that's another whole rabbit hole. And I have dove a little bit down it before, but why would they call these people the Israelite?
I believe there is. All right, so when we think about the Israelites,
I'll be right back,
you
brother.
know,
Hold it down.
okay,
Hold it down.
yeah, I got you. When we think about the Israelites, we're talking about there's a lot of different tribes that were over here, and there's so many markers of these tribes that were over here in this area that are still over here, in my opinion. Right, so Israelites, Moabites, Hittites. We can go down the list, right? So it's that area right there. Let me just go back for just a second. That area, I want to figure out where that is. Israelite, freeing national marker. Yeah, where is that? Now it doesn't want to come up. Free. Let's go with free Israelite national marker.
And that's a man. See, look, man, you trying to do too much, bro. You're trying to
I,
tell us
I'm trying.
that we first trying to tell us that we the original people that from this land, and now you trying to tell us that we are the mentioned ones out of the Bible, and then you're providing us with receipts that we're.
I mean, there's different things, right? So I'll give you one. Let's go back to it. We
I don't
and we
know if
was
Black
on it.
people ready for all this, man.
We
Jesus.
was on it last episode, right? About Isaiah. I think I'm spelling
Look,
that
he
right.
said, "Here we go."
11:15. Okay. All right. So Isaiah 11:15, as you can see, it describes the Egyptian Sea and the seven streams that come off of it, right? So let's actually go to the actual verse. All right. 11:15. All right. So let's do this one right here. Okay. All right. So let's go down to the bottom. They'll attack Edom and Moab. The Ammonites will fall into line. Da 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 da. All right. So it doesn't say it here. Okay. Here it is right here. And the Lord shall utterly destroy the tongue of the Egyptian sea, and with his mighty wind shall he shake his hand over the river, and shall smite it into the seven streams, and make men go over dry shod. All right, now when we think about the Egyptian Sea, some people may look at that as the Mediterranean Sea. Okay, see, here we go. All right, some people might look at that as the Mediterranean Sea, right? And then the river or the streams that come off of it could be looked at as the Nile, right? But the Nile doesn't have seven. The Nile has three. Okay, the Mississippi River has seven. Okay, and I've already got that pulled up here. Okay, so we've got the Red River. We've got, matter of fact, let's do this because it's written right here. There you go. These are the tributaries of the Mississippi River.
3, 4, 5, 6, and it has the Red River. I just saw something in the scripture. You sent something about a Red River.
but these are clues, in my opinion, right? When you got arguably the most
life too. I'm looking at the little map, and they talk about the tree of life, and the body that looks like a you pull up that, it looks like a tree of life.
Oh, this is the riverbed. If you're talking about if you're talking about right here, yeah,
like,
this is
the
Mississippi
too.
Right. So when we're talking about these different clues, I'm looking at one of the biggest clues, which is the eye test, and we just talked about how you gave melanated people in America the ability to win in entertainment and sports, and then they influence the whole world, just like that. right? And then you look at the ancient people of the Bible. Well, they're considered to be the most influential people of all time, arguably, and there's so many references in that book that's concerning this land. We talked last episode about Gopher's Wood, right? Well, Gopher's Wood is native of Florida. It's the only place on the earth that it's native to. But that's the wood, according to the book of Genesis, that God told Noah to use to build his ark with, right? Well, you got these references, you got all these different references, man. And then you got the Europeans calling it Septentrional, the land of the northern land of the seven.
This crazy thing is, just looking at the map where it's outlined, just with the rivers, it looked like a mini United States within the United States. You look at the shape of it. So even when you look at some of the map structure, maybe at times that they were only mapping out, these specific areas. Let me ask you that, because you mentioned Genesis. Could it be conceivable or inconceivable that the beautiful so-called Garden of Eden that we were so-called pushed out, they could have been referring to, this land, and then the foreign lands that they went into could have been, the other lands that the other ones are fighting about, but this could have been, that holy land that they've been looking for, the Garden of Eden that's allegedly guarded by the cherubs or whatever the heck it's called, is actually this land.
The seraphim and the cherubim.
Yeah.
I'm still digging into that. So I'm gonna be honest with you on that one. I'm still digging into that one. But I want to say that the original people of each land, they're still on these lands, right? And I know that doesn't really answer your question, and I know that kind of gets. I'm not trying to go around it. I just want to be safe with the way that I'm answering, to make sure I'm giving truth,
right,
or I'm being clear that I'm giving opinion. But there's been a lot of migration. There's been a lot of ethnic cleansing. There's been a lot. I mean, it's so much that has happened. But when it comes down to the land, what we have in evidence in Africa, I believe, is the oldest bones so far, and of a woman. I'm not sure of
Homo sapien, right? Lucy is a Homo something else.
Sure. I'm not sure about the oldest bones of this land. Yeah. But when I think about civilization, I think about this being the oldest place. As of right now, based upon what we have on ground evidence of. And what we have access to. Because it's honestly hard to say sometimes when we don't have access to Antarctica. We got to keep in mind that there are indigenous structures there that we can see from Google Earth. And when we think about that, we got to live in the reality that nobody builds these structures on top of ice. So they had to have been there, and then that landmass shifted into that location, or some kind of pole shifted, yes, and then the luck of the draw for Antarctica.
We might have that episode 8, man. We might have to do a whole episode just on Antarctica now. You done added that into the mix. You know what I'm trying to say? I forgot all about Antarctica and the youngest dries, and the fact that it appears that Antarctica was more of a tropical continent at one point or other, and there's a major ice sheet that's covering another land that has, as you say, I saw the same thing, the pyramids and the other things that's out there, and just the size of Antarctica as well. You know what I mean? So, oh man, that adds a whole new wrinkle, into the story.
I'm gonna show the people the pyramids right now.
Hey, Star, you got any questions, man? If you still watching, you got any particulars?
Yeah, throw it into the Hunger Games. Yeah, if it'll let me. Oh man! All right, so I guess Google Earth. That's weird. And you said just let you just
Now go back, quick launch Earth one more time. I think it's a button. Yeah, click that. Yeah,
okay.
and
Oh,
then
I don't know.
explore Earth up the top right.
Okay.
Let's
All
see.
right, there we go. Look at that. Mount
Rothschild.
Rothschild.
What the heck?
Mount Rothschild. You got your own mountain. Okay. All right. So we are looking at Antarctica, people.
Mm,
And on Antarctica, we are looking for McMurdo Station.
Dave Station.
There it is right there.
Mm.
What do y'all see right there?
Two
Covered
pyramids.
in snow.
I could see the indentions, and you just see the pattern. You could see it clear as day.
There y'all go. For everybody out there who wanted to see pyramids in Antarctica, you're looking at them right now. They're right next to McMurdo Station and Scott Base.
Mm.
It's two of them, and you can see them from Google Earth. I'm going to zoom out for everybody so everybody can see how massive these pyramids would have to be able
Mm.
to see them from Google Earth.
Mm.
These are huge. This is a freaking military base right here.
Uh-oh, they're about to show us something else. Like it was getting clearer. Dang.
And I would imagine there's a bunch of structures all over, all over Antarctica that
They just burned
obviously
out.
we'd have to. Yeah, I know it's weird the way they got this set up. It's almost like they have it blurred out on
Yeah, they
purpose. So
do. Yeah, they definitely do.
but yeah, that's something that I think people should take a look at. Like you need to know that uh, that there are pyramids in Antarctica, and no group of people that I've ever heard of in life builds pyramids on ice.
Right. And it
So
goes
yeah,
show
Rob.
how big that continent was. Like just by you showing that continent, just think about if it was more tropical and it was advanced people there, how many people might have been there, how many, because that's a big ass continent. And once again, we see pyramids located next to water or streams of water being a thing. You know what I mean? So yeah, man, that's once again, I wanted to ask another question. You know what I mean?
What's
But
up?
I'm like, man, that might take us down another rabbit hole. When you
Yeah.
were looking at that, it reminded me, have you taken a look at the structures on Mars? And once again, this you don't have to go long. I know it's a possibly another episode.
I
But
have looked.
but what do you feel about Mars? Do you feel like that there was some sort of inhabitation and that there was some sort of degradation of that system, and then we had to come to Earth? What is your overall thoughts on that?
Well, it's very clear that our family was up there at some point. More than likely,
Mm,
still is up there because we can see the structures from Hubble's telescope, and then more than likely, we could probably see even better now with the James Webb telescope. So, uh, it's very clear that these various star systems and these various planets, we have inhabited them at some point, if not are inhabiting them in real time, especially when we think about ourselves in a multi-dimensional type of capacity,
mm, mm. And
or
I mean,
than thinking more than just what this body is, thinking about the spirit that's behind the body.
mm. Now let me ask you this, since and once again, this is just free roam. You know what I mean, a little bit. But since about astrology and stuff, what do you have? Well, what do you think of the moon? Is this something that was always there? Was it placed there? Is it naturally forming from the Earth? Yakub, big head scientist, or is it a spaceship? Like, what are your overall just because we understand that it does have some sort of effect. There has been recorded history. You can corroborate that there's been periods of time where there seemed to be no moon in the sky that was written about or talked about, and then there's periods where there were. So, what do you overall think, since we're on this kind of topic of other planet, multi-planet, interdimensional? What are your views, just period, on the moon?
Well, I'm not. too sure on exactly what the history of the moon is and its origin.
Mm,
There's different theories that I've heard,
mm-hmm,
but that's something that I'll need to do much more study on to understand the origin of the moon. What I do understand about the moon is how its gravitational pull on water works.
mm-hmm.
So that right there fascinates me. But other than that,
So no, like alien spaceship or the other side of the moon. That there's space on the dark side of the moon. That there's space. Haven't gone down too far with that yet.
no, I'm not sure what might be on the dark side of the moon. Respect to everybody out there. Shout out to everybody out there who's digging in on that. Obviously, we need some answers, so
Right.
keep getting those answers. But I'm more so focused on within the zodiac. I'm more so focused on that planet's symbolic influence.
Mm-hmm.
So, like for in the zodiac, the moon is symbolic of inner self, emotions,
Mm-hmm.
intuition, and other aspects. So I kind of focus on that with the moon, but then I'm looking at when it's in the new moon, when it's waxing, when it's in the full moon, when it's waning, the
Mm-hmm.
dark moon, and then I'm kind of playing that into the algorithm of how that energy would impact the interpretation of the zodiac reading.
Right. And let me ask you another zodiac based questions. I got you here. So when you showed that map, right, and it's seemingly combining the world locations with the overall zodiac. What is the question that I want to ask? Why do you think is done that way? Like do you think that they just was doing astrology and wanted to make it look cute, say I'm gonna put the globe, or do you think there's some sort of connection between us traveling through the secular 12, sometimes 13 zodiacs in the planet? Are they directly connected? Is solving one solving the other, or did they just do that because he was bored and wanted to make some like creative art? Just off the top, when you look at that.
In Moorish science, we have a prophet named Noble Drawley,
Mm-hmm.
and he divinely prepared the Holy Koran. And within that book, within that pamphlet, it says that everything is connected by cords,
Mm.
right? Which corresponds with the Hermetic philosophy you and I have talked about with the principle of correspondence.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we think about it from that perspective, and we see that we're surrounded by these constellations or these star systems that are in a way no different than the moon, right? So when the moon is fully illuminated, it has a gravitational pull on water that's very, very strong, right? Well, this is because of light rays bouncing off of very specific minerals and hitting
Mm.
our atmosphere. Well, exact same thing with these other star systems.
Mm.
Exact same thing with these other planets. Okay,
Mm.
and
Talk that
and
talk.
this is and this is how it affects us, because we're made of the same minerals. We have
Mm.
universes within us, so this is all a part of that principle of correspondence, of everything being connected by cords,
Mm. Mm.
almost like
No.
a big old spider web. And as you flick one little piece of the web, so many other pieces on the web feel that vibration.
Powerful explanation, my brother. Well said. No, that was a great explanation. So it's almost like we can't separate ourselves from the stars. We can't separate ourselves from the zodiac. We can't even separate ourselves apparently from the planet. Like, even when I think about us being multi-planet, and we're made for Earth, literally. Maybe taking us off the planet into other planets, maybe our physical vessel and our ecosystem, won't be able to survive or thrive there. When you look at these connections, even it's making me want to, when I get off here, just investigate more about the Big Dipper and why did the people connect the
I
Big
got some.
Dipper to this northern land. Go ahead, my brother.
Dr. Sabi used to say this on a regular basis in his
Mhm.
interviews. He used to say that we are members of the organic family.
Mm,
So there's a hybrid family out here of a
mm,
lot of hybrid type of stuff, hybrid type of plants, hybrid type of people.
Mm,
but we are members of the organic family, right? We're organic to the earth.
mm,
So the further we get away from the earth, the harder it is for us to sustain ourselves because we're made of every piece of what this earth is, the
mm,
energy that's emitted from this earth, the soil of this earth, the
mm,
water that's on this earth, the vibrational frequency of all of those things, the air,
mm.
so we can create a makeshift environment. We can create our own little fish bowl for us to be in out in the out in the cosmos, and we're going to have a hard time because of how this body works. Now this spirit is infinite, and
Mm.
and this spirit can go anywhere at any time, but this body, it has a certain level of restrictions.
Yeah, and even when you talk about, I think you said the frequency, we do, well, not say we do, because we know that humans can vibrate at different frequency, but it appears when we get out of alignment of that 432, that Schumann resonance that particularly the earth is emitting, and we start to embody frequencies from, other solitary or planets, that it has a negate or negative effects on us. And it seems that the human systems operate more harmoniously when they're in tune with the frequency of the particular earth planet. So that kind of, gives more credence to exactly what you said. And once again, it makes me just want to, bring up these certain ideas. If I did have a chance to sit down with Musk, and you start, even the Bible and different scriptures, they did make man from the dust, and then to the dust we return. So we die on Mars, are we going to be alien to Mars and impregnated with the bacteria now because we're not made? This particular iteration wasn't made from that star stuff. It was made from the star stuff, like you said, particularly on this planet. You see how it just goes down to infinite rabbit holes where we'll never run out of content. Because once again, we don't even need new information because we're copies of copies. We could take existing stuff that we know, and then based off us just communicating back and forth, we create new iterations, which is, just the beauty, of who we are as, whatever made us, however we got here, or whatever the story is. It really is a story that is not under any limitations. Because once
Facts.
again, just to keep bringing, I've been saying that a lot, and Ace even knows when we have our conversation, and I haven't read the book yet. I only listened to excerpts of you reading it, ironically. My cousin also complimented you on your speaking voice one time when we was on. Yeah, so I'm not the only, yeah, absolutely. But when you were reading, that book, and then I started even doing more research on it, because I first noticed it, I was watching The Matrix, and I was just breaking it down scene by scene. I saw Neo grab the book and he opened it. I'm like, wait, what was that cover? You know what I mean? So, when it comes
Yeah,
to solve,
simulacra simulation for everybody out there who's listening.
yes,
Simulacra and simulation.
yeah, so when it comes to, solving, the age old history of man and the evolution of man seems to have a sort of self-referential system that, without any new information and just looking at its old information, even if it's just past, even if I just said something 2 seconds ago and I think about what I said 2 seconds ago, just me thinking on my thoughts creates a new iteration of a newer thought. So it's like we are infinite when it comes to that, and it is it's like a beautiful thing, like how can we not need anything new to create new? We can look at old and just you can go, even me, I might look at some of my old designs or some old code that I did a year ago, 2 years ago, just by me studying it, I see something new, or I gain a new skill set, or I say, what, next time when I'm gonna put this instead of this. And even if one day I'll show you my portfolio for the past 5-6 years, you can see the growth, but a lot of it is me. Like every time I do a project, I become better. It's never the same that I did before. So just by me looking at my old work, it makes me better without even creating new work. So it's just amazing on how, we are really created with that simulacrum, where you can't pinpoint the original, but we're all copying each other. But just because I see you do it, monkey see, monkey do it, I can create a new do just off watching what Ferdinand did. And then the beautiful part, we're all unique. So I guess even if I'm watching what you do, I'm a unique signature. So I can never do it exactly how you did it. No matter how much I know the recipe, how much I copy, my frequency and energy signature is going to create it in a different way as well. So I guess there really isn't, no one-on-one copy. We are copying a copy, but even when we're copying, we're creating an original. So,
So there's a book called Psycho-Cybernetics. I've
oh
often
yes,
talked about it by
yes.
Maxwell Maltz,
Mm-hmm.
and in that book, he's consistently talking about the servo mechanism of a carbon-based cybernetic machine.
Mm,
right? Well, the carbon-based cybernetic machine is this body that you see, and the
mm,
servo mechanism is, in some ways, Raw just explained it, right? Well, the servo mechanism kind of works like this, right? So maybe I'm reaching for a pin, right? Let's say that the pin is right here, so I'm reaching for the pin, but maybe I'm reaching over here first, but I start
mm,
to notice, and then I curve and
mm,
I grab the pin, right? Well, it doesn't just work for grabbing a pin or a football or a basketball or a baseball. Well, it works for driving a car. It
mm,
works for going after our goals.
mm, mm,
It works in a lot of different ways. This servo mechanism, this
mm,
this equilibrium chasing mechanism within us
mm.
is always moving in a way to bring us to that next level that you're talking about,
Right.
right? To grow into that next space of being, right? So one of the things that you were just saying was, you notice the growth, right? You're
Mm,
looking at the code that you write and the
mm,
stages of growth. Well, it's just like reading a book, right? So let's say you read a book 10 years ago, and then 2 years later you read the book again. So much more you noticed when you read the book again. Then you
mhm.
read it again 2 years after that. You notice so much more the next
Brand
time
new
you
book.
read it.
Yeah.
Yeah, same book, but it's a brand new book, right? 2 years later, right? This is 8 years later now. You didn't learn so much more from the book that you done read, you know,
Mm,
6 years ago, right? 10-year mark, you done learn 5 times as much. Well, why? Because you grew along the way, and
mm.
as you grow, the way you see anything, no matter what it is, you're
Change.
going to see it with the eyes of growth.
Nah, that's the, once again, even leading to the past isn't really the past, because we're always reimagining the past as we reimagine ourselves as the day. Like I might had a, so-called event that might have been so-called traumatic, but then I grow, say, and then you look at it and then you don't see the trauma. You see, oh well, this and this and this. You know what I mean? So, man, yeah, that I think we're just speaking to the overall, and I really do. Yes, there are other beautiful things in there, but I think one of the, not even one of them, let me just be real. I think the most masterful creation of all creation, I don't even care if there's aliens, are man, are human.
Yeah.
Because the ability to not know and know all in one vessel is unprecedented. The ability to be so powerful and powerless in one experience is unprecedented. And the fact that we have the ability, once again, unlike maybe higher advanced beings, we have the ability because we ate from the tree of good and evil. You know what I mean? So we have certain abilities in our own ignorance. The reason why, as far as like esoteric spiritually, we're like the center point of the universe. You know what I mean? Because you kind of know what you're going to get in some of these higher realms just because of the frequency of the realm. But when it comes down here in the realm that we inhabit, these damn humans, you don't know what you might get. You know what I'm saying? You might get war and love in the same thing. So, um, yeah, man, it's just once again, like I said, just a shout out, us humans. I know a lot of times we think that we're always trying to evolve to be something other than self, but even when we have conversations like this, and to see like the beauty of what we can do, even without no new information. So even if they somehow deleted which has been done, there's been destroying of information. You could take away all external sources and it almost will probably accelerate the growth of us, especially when you are looking at your own work and then going over your own work and seeing how you can improve. You don't even need someone else's work. Just by you iterating on your own concepts creates new concepts, which I just find, even talking about it to you, just find it amazing. You know what I mean? The fact that we have that ability without, like the simulacrum says, without introducing an original. A copy of a copy can produce newness, which is just, like I said, shout out to us. Shout out to us just on that level right there.
Yeah, facts. Shout out. Yeah, because it's slightly complicated material for anybody out there who is interested in reading. I'm not even going to lie to you. Simulacron simulation is a challenging read. There's some pretty big words in there, and they come often. But it is a good read.
Mm,
It'll help a person see things differently because there's a hypnotism that has happened,
mm,
and to know about the hypnotism, a person's got to understand how alternate realities, you know, can manifest, right? And the two best books that I can think of to help a person really understand all that is Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz and Simulacra and Simulation by Jean Baudrillard.
And just to tell the people, because we all know about the popular theatrics, but just to regurgitate to people again, can you tell them, what movie that we all love was inspired by this book, just to make them, and a little bit more excited to go check it out?
The Matrix.
Yeah, The Matrix. The Wachowski, which is how we're in the Matrix, because they're no longer the Wachowski brothers. Did you know that they're the Wachowski sisters? Did you know that?
Yeah, I didn't know. I wasn't.
So the Mandela effect. Do it real quick. Google who created the Matrix movie. Let's see.
It's I forgot what her name is, but it's a melanated female.
But yes, Sophia. That's the but yes. So just say that, and yeah, there you go. Lana and Lily, the Wachowski sisters, created the Matrix. The movie.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So the Wachowski brothers both transitioned to women. So when you go to say, one day I was trying to tell someone how the Wachowski brothers created the Matrix, but I couldn't find the Wachowski brothers. It said the Wachowski sisters. And I was saying, how did both of the brothers turn into women, which is further proof we're in the Matrix?
Wow.
They both. So the last Matrix that was created was credited under the Wachowski sisters. They're no longer the Wachowski brothers. Tell me that's not a Mandela effect for your ass.
Wow. Whoa.
Yeah, that's how I was. The same way. Yeah. Sophia Stewart, as we know, but Lily and Lana Wachowski are the creators of the new movie Matrix. So
at first I thought you was talking about the writer.
Oh yeah, no. I know. Yeah, Sophia Stewart, the melanated lady. No, but the ones who allegedly directed, the movies. I got the same way. I was trying to research something and I couldn't find the Wachowski brothers. I'm like, what is going on? And then all I kept seeing was the Wachowski sisters. I'm like, wait, the Wachowski. And I did a little bit of investigation. I said, oh, they are now sisters.
Shout out to Ace Thriver. Appreciate you, brother.
Yes, sir. So now, man, I just wanted you to dive down that little rabbit hole, man. But yeah, man, as far as this, I think we covered, a good amount. If you had any more that you wanted to say, or even possibly give them a sneak peek on, what's to come next week.
Well, next week, we're going to be diving a little deeper into the maps and, looking at some locations, looking at some different symbols of animals, obviously people. We did a little tiny bit. We're gonna go a little deeper. Matter of fact, on the next episode, I'm gonna actually just go to the Library of Congress archive and I'm gonna pull the maps live for everybody. Yeah, so we can really take a look at these and see what the Europeans were thinking about this land when they made these maps, because I haven't been able to find any Moorish maps. I haven't been able to find African maps. I've only been able to find French maps, German maps, English maps. You feel me?
Right.
Book maps in Latin.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's what's coming on the next episode. So I appreciate everybody who's tuned in. Thank you very much. We really love going in on these topics and y'all being here with us because what we're doing is focused on truth. Obviously, there's a certain amount of opinion that's thrown in here, but we're coming with some facts, y'all. We're coming with some things to look at. We're coming with some places to go online so you can go back and you can research on your own and see for yourself and uncover these things, because understand the truth is what's going to make you free, right? If there's any part of your life where you've wanted a certain amount of autonomy and it has not been there for you, right? Truth is going to give you that, right? And it can start from any direction, right? But it always leads to the same conclusion, right? Which is purity. Right, so make sure you're focused on that. Ra, you got any closing words for him?
No, man, listen, this is another great build. I said, I definitely, learned some things. I am extremely intrigued with the Septentrional, uh,
Septentriano.
Septentrional,
Yeah.
with
So
that
so it's like Septentriano.
Septentrional, my brother, appreciate you. Septentrional, right? I'm extremely interested on the connection between that, the Big Dipper, the zodiacs, and the maps, and why they decided to, particularly group these things. We do know that these forces have been, yes, sir. We do know that these forces have been Masonic for thousands of years, which meaning that they dabble, which is an understatement, into the esoterics and things to create a lot of these things. So, I'm really intrigued to where, as we continue to go and grow down these rabbit holes, just to kind of see the bigger picture as we get deeper into these episodes, on the connections, and kind of just get into, me, I'm trying to get into the mind frame, the think tank, like you said earlier. What were they thinking? How were they feeling when they were creating these things? So we can kind of just get into the psyche, of them. And then it helps us, I think, to kind of, understand the motivations, the intentions, and the need to hide and cover, just thinking like the assailant, or the vigilante, whatever the hell it is. The best detectives are always the ones that can think like the villa. Say it for me, Robert.
What, the villain?
No, the vigilante, the vigilante.
Vigilante.
Vigilante. There we go. You got me looking. I got myself looking crazy. The vigilante. So now these is dope. I'm learning. I appreciate coming here and chopping up with you and chopping up with the audience, and I look forward to the next one.
Yeah, man. Appreciate all the wisdom that you bring every time. Appreciate everything that you bring, because there's a certain type of energy that you bring, as well as those alternate views that we need to, like, there may be angles that I miss, and then you're on that angle. You'll come with Stockholm syndrome, or you'll come with the Iroquois Confederacy, or you'll come with something about stocks, right, and money movement, right, and each of these pieces are super valuable. So appreciate you. Thank you very much. Listen, everybody out there, appreciate all of you. Ace Thriver, I see you over there. Thank you very much, my brother. Listen, y'all be blessed and expose your gift.